Radio Rahim with Oleksandr Krassyuk, promoter of Oleksandr Usyk. I've met a lot of Alexanders here today, but you may be the most important one in the room when it comes to Usyk. First of all, talk to me about how you found this talent and kind of the story of how you and Oleksandr Usyk came together.
Well, it's a really extraordinary story, I would suggest, because I met him first at the Olympics in London. So I heard much about him, but I never talked to him. I was in London for some business issues, and that was the day of the finals at the Olympics. It was like a mess to find the ticket. At the end of the day, I found the ticket, and I was in. And Usyk's final was just about to start. Then he goes in the ring, he wins, then he dances. And I immediately imagined this guy becoming the professional.
Dancer.
Absolutely. Since that day, well, he stayed 1 year in this semi-professional WSB, World Boxing Series. Mm-hmm. And afterwards, we found the solution. We signed the deal, and since that time, he's with K2 Promotions. And he's, like, within 15 fights, collected all 4 belts and cruiserweights, including Ring Magazine belt. Yeah.
It's interesting that he went with the World Series of Boxing, because there was quite a bit of controversy, especially in the States, about whether or not that was good for fighters, not having headgear, whether or not it should go towards their professional record. I see he has 15-0. It doesn't look like the WBS has been applied to it. What was your experience like with him fighting there? And do you think those fights should apply to pro records?
Are you asking about this semi-professional?
Oh, wait a minute. We're not talking about the...
Yeah, I think so, because before he turned the professional. Yeah,
this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well, we are talking about Usyk. So Usyk was there for 1 season.
Right.
So he fought as the cruiserweight, like they call it in amateurs, they call it heavyweight and super heavyweight. So he fought both, in heavyweight and in super heavyweight. And some of his opponents were professionals, but by that time, like up to 15 professional bouts. The Italian, I remember, he was really tall. He was about 2 meters high, but Usyk defeated him. That showed how good he is. And that was an extra experience, because the guy like him, having maybe as an asset, having like 400 amateur fights, he knows what to do in the ring. And that makes it easier for a promoter to build him up, because mentally and physically and technically he's ready to make a big shot as soon as possible. And that's what happened actually with Usyk, because his 4th fight was already a title fight for the WBO Intercontinental title. And after that, it took him like just 6 more fights to fight for the world title. And he beat the Evander Holyfield record, becoming the world champion just in 10 fights rather than in 12 like Evander did. And then he beat everyone's record, becoming the undisputed in just his 15th fight. And he is now the 4th in the world and the first non-American fighter who could ever have 4 belts at the same time.
As a promoter, that's a dream. Like, you can talk for, hours and hours about all the things that he's been able to accomplish and how soon he's been able to accomplish them. But is there a danger in moving too fast? Now that you've acquired these belts, the status, are you more cautious about now picking fights and plotting his course so that these fast-gotten gains aren't lost as quickly as they were gotten?
It's just all a matter about the risk that should be taken. Usyk is not a young guy. He's not the beginner. He's a 31-year-old professional fighter. So let's estimate he would have maybe 5-6 years more. Within this time, he has a huge goals to reach, like becoming the undisputed in heavyweights. And that means he has to move fast. The faster, the better. This is professional boxing. Besides sports, he has to earn money. But earning money in professionals means that you have to be someone who people want to see, who people want to watch, who people want to buy ticket for. And this all is a compilation of physical, mental, of charisma, and of how of the level of the opposition. If he fights the decent opposition, then he is recognized as the real champion. If he fights on the territory of his opponent, then he is truly recognized as the high top level fighter. And this actually what happened to him. And with the help of Lord, it would happen to him in the heavyweight division, I think.
Well, having those kind of goals, and as you said, the faster the better, it seems that it makes sense for you to sign on with the co-promotion Matchroom. I mean, we're in England, obviously, where Matchroom is king. Those kind of fights that you're talking about, especially unifying the heavyweight division, which is a pretty lofty goal, do you feel like Eddie Hearn obviously he doesn't have the goal of Usyk unifying the heavyweight championship, but does he share your goal in moving him as quickly and giving him the kind of challenges and the kind of big fight cards that would facilitate those opportunities?
Listen, Eddie is a big friend of mine. We met first not that long ago, but it took us like 10 minutes to complete the deal. I think it's the reason for this is that we are the new generation promoters, not the old school, but the new generation. And our cooperation brings only positive things into business. I mean, Usyk is something that is somebody who the world wants to see. And matching up with Tony Bellew is the first step to the exposure that he could get in England, in the United States. Eddie has a vast business. He's the promoter. He's not stuck to a fighter. His objective is to bring the best fights possible, and it's possible when you have best fighters. Tony Bellew, Oleksandr Usyk. This is something special. Then, if Usyk goes up, England has some certain amount of really strong heavyweights to start with, and afterwards, if Usyk fights Anthony Joshua, that could be really amazing. Maybe the fight of the decade, because two Olympic champions of the same Olympics in two divisions like heavyweight and super heavyweight collide in, let's say, for the undisputed championship. That couldn't be a history.
I see your promoter recipes being baked together right now in your nice championship cake. There is something that you said that caught my attention. First of all, we talk about fighters who have collected multiple belts, much less unified and undisputed in a division, are often not of the mindset that the faster the better. They want to milk the money. And then secondly, as a promoter, you said we're of the new school, not of the old school. So I'm curious as to what you think is the difference between the old school promoters and how you and Eddie Hearn, as you put him in this category, as new school promoters behave.
I tell you what is the core difference between the old school and the new school. The new school work with the fighter with the open cards. So it's like promoter works as the attorney for his client. So he supplies everything for him and takes a small percentage of it. And the benefit is huge because the better fighter feels, the happier he is. He's more willing to work, to cooperate, to expand the cooperation. And that actually the main difference what happened in the past when the fighter was never happy with what he got. And with the present, when the fighter gets what he wants and he is willing to pay the price for what he got. That's actually it.
At 31 years old, you talk about a fighter being willing to pay the price. Obviously, what'd you say, 400 amateur fights, having a year at semi-pro, and now with only 15 pro fights, are you having any issue whatsoever with his development as a star? Because I've spoken to him earlier today, and he doesn't see himself as a star or whatnot, but you as a promoter know that he is and know how that needs to be guarded and developed. So in that regard, is he as cooperative and as excited about expanding that stardom as he is about his boxing career?
Being a star is not his objective, actually. but presenting himself, the kind of person he is to the public, that's what he wants. He wants people to see what kind of personality he is, how he cheers in the ring, how he achieves his goals. He wants to share his experience with the public. And it doesn't matter whether it's Ukraine or the UK or United States or any other country. He wants people to see that what he brings to the world. And that's actually what makes him a star, his charisma. Because though he doesn't speak English, fluent English, when he first came to the press conference in the United States, he went out to the stage. He said like four or five words, like "Hi, I'm Oleksandr Usyk," and the journalists were sitting like, "Oh, who's this guy?" Because he was like a really attractive personality. No matter what he said, but they didn't care. They just wanted to ask who he is, what kind of fighter, who he fights, what's his story, and that's what makes him different from all other fighters.
Well, the fighter in this relationship is not the only one who has goals. I'm sure who has dreams and wants to attain them. You being a promoter in a situation like this, I would say is probably what most promoters have that become big in the sport. They have a star. They have someone who's able to win championships, and they ride that rocket ship sometimes to decades and decades of success. Do you feel like Oleksandr Usyk is that vehicle for you? And what has his success currently given you the opportunity to do as a promoter that you may not have been able to do before?
I tell you something. It's a huge luck. It's a present from the boss, from the Lord. Mm-hmm. When a promoter has an opportunity to work with that kind of fighter, like Usyk is. Because I would confess, it's not complicated to bring him up. I mean, it's not complicated to build him up like a fighter, like a star, with all the assets he got, his charisma, his physical, his technical, all the issues he has. All you need to do is just to avoid mistakes, and he would bring you to the top level as soon as you wish.
What's the difference between promoting in, let's say, the Ukraine and Russia, in the England here, and then you've also had fights with Usyk in the States, which, with 15 fights, he's made his rounds, like you say, fighting other guys' backyards, way more than a lot of fighters who are on a path to stardom do. Usually they stay home and try to defend there. So having had experience promoting in all these different countries, what's been your experience, and what's your favorite country to promote and why?
Frankly, the UK. And it's not because I'm now here. It's because people are so deep involved in boxing. They know such small details. Come on. A fan comes up to Usyk in a shopping center and asks a question that I never heard of. Like some small details from his career, from his life, from his personal, I don't know. But that's really something special, because people here, they love, okay, England, the UK is the native land of boxing. But within maybe 6 or 7 years ago, it was different. It wasn't that popular as it is now. And I don't know how to explain, but the crowd here is really, really something special. That's what I can say.
You mentioned boxing not being as popular as it was maybe 10 years ago. That's when the Klitschko's were kind of reigning as heavyweights, and some people would consider that a lull. That was the Floyd Mayweather era and beyond that point. But the lighter fighters were making more noise. Pacquiao, Mayweather, even Oscar De La Hoya a bit before that. But now we've got a bit of competition with the MMA. That stuff is popular in Europe. It's popular in the States. How do you find the MMA? Are you a fan of that sport, and you consider them a threat to boxing?
I don't think there's any threat from MMA, because these are two different kind of sports, and usually the people who watch MMA, they are a part of the audience that watch boxing, but not 100%, because it's a brutal thing when the guy is on the ground and he hits him with everything he wants. And boxing is a kind of kill is a kind of arts. It's of course it's dangerous, but it's not that brutal as MMA is. And it's of course a matter of it's a choice of each fan whether he likes it or not. But my opinion is that MMA will never kill boxing. Boxing is different. It's been living for many years, and it will live for many years in the future. That's what I think.
Well, I agree. I don't think MMA will ever kill boxing, but boxing and MMA just might have a baby together.
In Japan.
Yeah. So I'm curious, knowing what the fan base is in Europe, and then obviously a huge boxing star in Floyd Mayweather is now fighting his second MMA fighter. What do you think of boxers mixing it up in some kind of hybrid rules? Would you ever allow your fighters to take on that kind of challenge?
Why not? I think it's how can I explain this? Floyd Mayweather, he reached anything that's possible in boxing. He became the richest boxer in the history of boxing. So what has he do? What should he do now? He's just 41-year-old guy. So he's boring. I mean, he has to put some challenges in front of him. And returning to boxing, it's also boring. So he wants just to try himself in a different business or in different sports. You never know. Maybe he can succeed, maybe not. But it's still attractive. It's still something people want to see, to watch. Why not? But I don't think it's going to be a new culture will be created.
Well, I think everyone can agree that Floyd Mayweather is the best self-promoter that boxing maybe has ever seen, maybe even since Ali, since he's promoted himself with no designated promotion behind him. But promoters who promote other fighters, and not themselves in particular, get a bad rap, like sometimes deserved, often deserved, and sometimes not. But it's the kind of thing that people always roll their eyes like, they're thieves, they're, terrible human beings, they're liars, they're users. Obviously, you've described yourself as the new style of promotion or promoter. What is it most important for you to avoid those kind of trappings? And what are you doing differently that maybe change the brand of the promoter and the promotion business itself?
The reputation is something a promoter should work on, because if you have a good reputation, people know you are fair, how you treat your fighters, they just come themselves to sign a contract with you. You don't have to chase them. You don't have to offer them something that will never happen in the future. They come and say, okay, I heard much about you. I know your attitude. I know how much you pay. I know you are fair, and I will never be cheated. I want to work with you. That's always not. It's not a matter of boxing. It's a matter of business. It's a matter of life, common life. That's how reputation should work for you after you worked hard on your reputation.
Well, your reputation is being built as we speak. Huge fight on Saturday night. Your fighter, Oleksandr Usyk, is taking on Tony Bellew at Manchester Arena. Good luck on that night. It's a pleasure to talk to you. Pleasure to speak with you. And good luck with your promotional career. Radio Rahim with one of the many Alexanders the Great here in Manchester.